I can bring some with me. Tetley's does the job.
All the finest. Very nice, sir. Very nice. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to episode 6 of In the Red Corner, on what I'm billing as the best weekend of live sport we've had this year. It's the first time we've had Premier League, AFL, an unbelievable UFC card, and for Grant, some golf.
Bit of golf, yeah. Which currently I'm losing. Done a couple of bets and they're not doing that great. So we can move swiftly on from the golf until I come into the money. But anyway, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. I was just telling you before, I've just smashed out a virtual grappling session. Smashed out some dinner, and I'm on here for 7:30. So
there we go.
Successful.
There we go. Let's get on with it.
Let's do it. My opening question for you this week, my friend.
Yep.
With what's going on in UFC and a few announcements we've heard regarding Michael Chandler. As we know, he's just signed for the UFC. And because Tony Ferguson and Dustin Poirier have dropped off the card, they've put Michael Chandler onto the card as a backup for Khabib or Gaethje should one of those drop out. We're assuming that they won't drop out, so we're assuming that Michael Chandler won't fight. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, who is Michael Chandler's first fight? Who will he be matched up with?
Great question. And this is going to surprise you.
Oh, I like a surprise.
The guy that will fight Michael Chandler next will be Beneil Dariush.
Oh, that is a surprise. It's actually a really good call, but I wouldn't. Yeah, didn't sound.
And the reason is, and I'll break it all down.
Here you go.
Is you take the main event out.
Yep.
You take out Poirier and Tony. Mm-hmm. McGregor's penis is out. McGregor's out at the moment. So you take Conor out the equation. Then Hooker lost to Poirier, obviously more recently. And he's got the concussion protocol, which only ends this week. So any October, that time frame, it will be a real push for him to be sort of fight fit and ready for that. Now, the next under that is Charles Oliveira. Now, Charles Oliveira has won all his last 7, so he's on a real tour at the moment. But Charles Oliveira was scheduled to fight Beneil Dariush on the Holly Holm and Aldana fight card.
Yep.
Also in Fight Island.
Yeah, from Fight Island.
So that's October the 4th. Now, Oliveira has pulled out because of personal reasons, so nobody knows what that is yet in regards to him. So it also means that Dariush is in a little bit of limbo. Now, my feeling is Dariush will be delayed maybe a week or two to go into Fight Island. Beneil Dariush, yes, he's in 11th ranking. He's not sort of in the top echelon, but also on a tour, 5 fights, won his last 5 fights. And interestingly, Dariush and Chandler fought last month, both of them in August. So they're kind of on a similar schedule in a sense. Now, obviously, Fight Island is scheduled. Now, I believe both will go to Fight Island as backups. So Chandler will be back up to the main event. Dariush might be able to get a fight from someone, but Dariush will be a backup in a sense because if the main event happens, well, they can easily put them two together. But then you'll ask, well, Dariush is going and he's not, it's a waste for him to be there.
Yeah.
But his training partner is Justin Gaethje. So he could help him train for the fight. And also his coach, Trevor Whitman's there. His coach's team is there. So his people are there, in a sense, for Beneil Dariush. Now, if that doesn't happen, that's fine. Because they're both fighting out of America. So both could maybe in the next Apex, a couple, after Fight Island, they could probably get a fight night in Vegas. And that means when Charles Oliveira is back in play, he can have a fight against Hooker, 5th and 6th. That makes sense. So, and if we don't get the Dariush and the Chandler fight in Fight Island, well, Whittaker and Cannonier can just be the co-main anyway. So that's what I predict.
That was a lot of logic going on there. You've thought that one through. That's insane.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That surprised you?
I'm satisfied. Yeah, I didn't see Dariush coming up. No, I think when I had to think about it before I asked you the question, and my first thought was that they weren't going to book Chandler a fight on Fight Island.
Right.
I thought he was just going to go there and he literally is just going to go make weight. I think what Dana wants to see is that he wants to fight and that he can make the weights and that he's willing to kind of do what needs to be done. And if that means he doesn't fight, he doesn't fight. If that's the case, my guess would be that he's either going to fight Dan Hooker or Paul Felder. I think one of those two. If you're looking at someone who's come from Bellator, who fights at a really high level, than the champion. But again, if you look at the record of who he's fought, in my opinion, it's not that same level as the kind of the UFC top 5. I think he needs a fight within that kind of 5 to 10 range to see truly where he's at. And two fights that really spring to mind for me would be Dan Hooker or Paul Felder, mainly because they're two guys that whatever happens, they're going to give you probably a 5-round scrap. Yeah, it's going to really blood you into the UFC and kind of test where he's at. So that'll be my 2 cents.
Good pick. It'll make you wonder if if Felder's knocking around Fight Island, is he going to be doing a bit of fighting and a bit of commentary as well? Who knows?
You never know. He's the type of guy that would just like he's already done that where he's gone and straight from the commentary
cornered someone.
Yeah. So
who knows? That's good.
And get in.
Yeah. No, it's a sensible and logical pick there. So I'm happy with those fights as well.
We'll see. I mean, what I guess it comes down to is whether Dana's going to book him a fight or not, or he just has to turn up and make weight. Probably not fight, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah.
While we're on UFC, we might as well stick to the card this weekend.
Yeah.
Like I kind of mentioned in the introduction there, this is probably the best non-pay-per-view card we're going to have this year. It's absolutely stacked, and in any other kind of time frame, this probably would have been a pay-per-view, but it has, as it's fallen, as the fights have come together, it's right before the Costa Adesanya fight next weekend. Yeah. So lucky us, we get it on for the free to air or on KO over here. Absolutely awesome. Like you look at the prelims, there's a few decent names on the prelims there. The first one that jumped to mind to me was the Australian girl, Jessica Rose Clark. Yeah. What do you make of her?
Yeah, well, she's like you say, an Aussie fighter fighting out of Cairns, I believe. That's where she's grew up. So so she's an Aussie. Obviously, she's lost her last 2 by decision. So she's obviously looking to get back into the win column. But the interesting thing for me is that in her last 8 fights have all gone to decision. So so it seems to be you'd like to think it's leaning more towards a decision, but her 2 notable decision wins of note are the Bare Knuckle crew, who we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, of Beck Rawlins and Paige Van Zandt, that she has decision wins over. In terms of Sarah Alpar, I don't know too much about her, but initial, looking at the stats, looking at the research there, I'm going to say her by decision, but I could be wrong. How do you see it?
It doesn't look good for that Sarah Alpar. She hasn't even got a picture on the UFC website yet. That's
really?
So you've not made it yet.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's a big fight for Jessica Rose Clark. She, like you say, she's lost the last 2. Don't know how many fights she's got left on her contract, but you can't help but think where she sits in that the bantamweight division, you need to win this one. By hook or by crook, get it done. I think she's had a lot of problems with like weight and stuff in the past, where she's really struggled to make that weight, or she's not been in. I know she's moved around camps from what I can see. Just looking on Instagram and stuff like that. So it looks like she's more settled now. I think she lives out in Vegas or over on the West Coast somewhere. She's got a good striking background, so I think you'd like to see her kind of showcase her skills. Like I say, I don't know much about Sarah Alvar, but it looks to me like she's being set up for a win here, to get her a win back get her in that win column. And hopefully I think she'll get it done. I think she'll
hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The other notable name on the prelims was Bektic.
Yep. He's probably similar to Jessica Rose, so also lost his last two. Danny Ige and Josh Emmett, so nothing to be ashamed of by any of them two. And I think Ige was a split decision as well, so fairly, can go kind of either way on that one. But I would say the interesting thing about this fight is, I can't even remember how you say the guy's name, but Garagori, I think, he was supposed to be fighting a guy called Garagori, obviously on Sunday. But he got, 2 days ago, got tested positive for COVID. So his opponent now has changed to a guy making his UFC debut called Damon Jackson. Right. So he's come in on short notice. It's kind of one of those things, so important in this era of COVID to stay fit, stay ready. Yep. So the interesting thing for me is Damon Jackson is stepping up, making his UFC debut. And in his 17 fights that he's had, obviously outside of the promotion, he's won 13 by submission.
Ooh. Right.
So I think he, obviously, given those stats, a bit of a submission magician. So I've got a feeling I'm going to put my neck on the line here, and I'm going to say this guy is going to win on his debut via submission and will beat Bektic. But
it'll be a huge if he manages to pull that off. Because Bektic was very, very highly rated coming in. I believe he's a striker. Likes to stay on the feet. And he's had wars. The fight with Josh Emmett, I believe, was war. And I think he was winning that fight up until the last round, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we know he's got the credentials, but that's interesting. And it's like you say, in these kind of weird COVID times, it really does pay to stay ready. And who knows, this guy coming in, Bektic won't have had any time to prepare for him.
No.
It really just leveled the playing field on. Whereas you think Bektic might have a bit more experience being in the UFC, this really just levels the playing field because he's not had time to prepare for it. So that's an interesting bet. I'd be interested to see what odds his opponent is now. Actually, that's one to watch as well. And I think that kind of sums up the main names, the prelims.
Yeah.
Moving on to the main card, we've got Holland and Darren Stewart.
Yeah.
We've seen both of them relatively recently. I think probably in the last month or so.
Yeah.
Kevin Holland looks incredible. He kind of coasted through that last fight, but he was just obviously on a different level to his opponent, from what I remember. Very, very good striker. He looks kind of calm, composed, picks his shots, and I think that was kind of the direction he was getting from his corner, was to kind of feel his way into the fight. Darren Stewart, on the other hand, up and down career in the UFC, from what I can follow. He went on a 3-fight losing streak, I believe, and then has slowly kind of clawed his way back up. Had a really great performance. I think he won by was it a guillotine in his last fight?
Yeah, it was guillotine choke.
How do you think this one will go?
I think this has all the makings, and it's tough to say because of, let's say, the more stellar names that are on the card. But I've got a feeling this is a great fight to open the card because I think it will be the sleeper of the night where you go, wow, this kind of, and they've put it there because it sets the tone for the night. It's that type of fight. The interesting thing is, like you say, they both fought recently. Both got performance of the night bonuses in their last fights. So obviously Stewart with the submission, Holland with his knockout, I think it was, TKO. Yep. So both of them are coming in on performance of the night, 50 Gs and all that. So both coming in with a lot of confidence. I am leaning towards Stewart. So I will predict that Holland will be the next person to be drilled by the dentist, and I will be saying a decision victory for Stewart.
Right. I agree with you. If I'm making predictions, I think Darren Stewart's got power in his hands, and I think that's gonna. My thought is that Kevin Holland's gonna go into this probably quite confident of his last performance, and he's gonna walk onto something. I think he's a bit too calm. He's probably gonna underrate how good Darren Stewart is, and I think there'll be a KO victory for the dentist.
There we go.
The dentist. Mackenzie Dern up next. Love watching Mackenzie Dern fight. She's fighting Randa Marcos. The first thing I noticed when I looked at the two girls in this fight was I hadn't really heard of Randa Marcos, to be honest with you. She's not a name that I'd come across before, but I should have because she's fought Claudia Gadelia.
Everyone.
Another big name as well recently. Who's the other one?
She got a win over Angela Hill.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. And there's somebody else that she's fought more recently, and she lost.
Reba. They both fought Rebas.
Rebas, yeah, she fought Rebas. And that was her last fight. I think it was in maybe March or February this year.
Yeah.
So she's been in there with everyone. I mean, she might not have got the wins, but she's going to have that experience now.
Yeah.
And you look at Mackenzie Dern, and we all know what her credentials are. Two-time world BJJ champion. So we know what she's going to want to come and do. I have noticed, though, when you look at her training recently, she spent a lot of time with Jason Perillo of Michael Bisping fame.
Yeah.
So she's working on the striking, which is what you're going to need to do if you want to work with that division. I don't think you can be like a one-trick pony. No matter how good you are, you've got to be able to compete with the best on the feet as well. I would assume still her kind of break glass moment is going to be she's going to try and take it to the ground and do work on her. But from what I can see, she is doing all the work on her striking, and maybe she'll want to test herself. Maybe she'll want to see if she can stand with Marcos. How do you see it going?
Yeah, it is an interesting one actually, because like you say, she's kind of giving that impression that it's stand up, but given her background, you know, she can easily dismantle you on the floor. So you're absolutely right in terms of obviously Mackenzie Dern's last fight was Hannah Cyphers, obviously via submission. Both lost to Amanda Ribas. You know, I would like to be choked out by Amanda Ribas, but we're a family show, so we're not even going there. But I just thought I'd put that in. But so they both lost to Ribas. But the thing that I really liked about Dern this week is kind of her mentality, or the things that she's been saying. So Mackenzie Dern is really angry about the loss to Amanda Ribas because it's took away the undefeated streak. But that could also be a very good thing. Now that she knows how to lose, you know, you never want that happen again. And all the things that she's been saying this week is, you know, I'm 10 times better now. Gone back to the drawing board. That loss has really hurt. And I predict this could be the best Mackenzie Dern that we see at the weekend. Now, you're absolutely right with Marcos fighting a lot of big names. So I think she got a notable win against Angela Hill, who was last week's main event.
Yep.
But one thing that I will pick up on one of her losses is that she lost via armbar to Courtney Casey. Oh. So she's only got one submission lost to her record, of course. And yes, she can be caught out. But I've got a feeling that, you know, Mackenzie Dern is a lot better on the ground than Courtney Casey is, no disrespect to her. So I've got a feeling, Dern could try and manipulate something there. So I will put my neck on the line and I will say an armbar finish for Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah, I can't see past Mackenzie Dern in this one. The other thing I'll say about her, and it was in the prep, and you never know how much kind of weight this holds, but she looks like she's in incredible shape. If you look at her as well compared to some of the last fights that she's come in, I would say she looks in incredible shape. And you never know, with all the social media she's putting out there and the talking of the striking, it can be kind of misleading, kind of, because you lead Marcos to think, oh, she's going to want to stand and bang here. And then she might be spraying for a takedown. And then that's all she wrote. It's over. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But I agree with you. I think Mackenzie Dern will get it done. Yeah.
Well, obviously, moving on from the girls is another interesting fight next. Yep. Again, another great fight in Johnny Walker versus Ryan Spann. Now, I want you to break this one down first and foremost. But one thing I wanted to ask, and I think this should be the case, is do you have any idea if Johnny Walker has a nickname?
No idea.
Because I don't think he does, right?
Johnny, well, could we come up with one? Have you got any ideas?
Yes, what it should be. His nickname should be Johnny Red Label Walker.
Where did you pick that up from?
Just like the whiskey. Johnny Walker whiskey. So if he was American or if he was English, I reckon they would have took the Johnny Walker whiskey moniker, probably branded or, you know, some sort of thing there, like the Proper 12 and all that. But anyway, I just wanted to ask if he had a nickname. I don't think he does. But Johnny Walker, we've spoke a lot about this guy in the past. Matt, what are your thoughts on this one? How's this one going down?
he every time he's coming, and I'm pretty sure we've watched his last 2 fights together. And every time he walks into the octagon, and you see him move in the opening sequence, and you're like, oh, he's good. He's so dangerous. And then twice now, he's walked onto something because, and you know, it's actually very similar to what we were saying about that Michel Pereira last week, where it's just mad, unorthodox, incredible talent, incredible athlete, but he needed his skills to be like honed in by someone. From what I can see from Johnny Walker, he'd spent a lot of time, like, he didn't really have a home or didn't really have a set camp, which he settled in. He spent some time in TriStar, I believe, with Franz Zahabi. Moved around, obviously he's from Brazil. This camp he spent time with John Kavanagh, obviously Conor McGregor's coach in Dublin. And it seems like they got on like a house on fire. And this could be exactly what Johnny Walker needs. He needs someone who's going to give him the discipline in the corner, because he does have all those skills. He's an incredible athlete, like a truck. He's got a big skill set, so you don't know what he's going to hit you with. But he needed to be able to hone in the confidence a little bit, dial it down, be a bit more methodical, stay in the fight a bit longer, not be so erratic. And I think John Kavanagh could be perfect for that. He'll hopefully have instilled with him a bit of discipline. And he'll be a sensible ear in the corner as well to rein him in when he gets a bit erratic. But the same with Michel Pereira, you don't want to completely take away that element of his game, because it's who he is. He's very, very and erratic. He's been matched up here really cleverly with Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann's on an 8. Is it Ryan Spann? Yeah, 8-fight win streak. Looks incredible. He's got a win over Little Nog, which again, no mean feat. So it's a tough matchup for Walker, but I think it's also an important matchup. I think Walker's coming into this and has to win, or he's going to lose that hype, because it obviously he's somehow managed to maintain, because people can see what he's got in him, and he's just not managed to kind of put it together yet. I think you've got one more fight here before people kind of start to write you off. But Ryan Spann's not an easy matchup, and it's going to be a great fight, I think. How do you see it going?
No, you've summed it up perfectly there. I think the important thing for Johnny Walker, and it's kind of a bit of a theme tonight about getting back into the win column and doing what you have to. The fact that he's moved to SBG under Kavanagh, needed that old school guy, like you say, to discipline him a little bit and stop the, kind of, reel it in a little bit, and obviously, he deals with Conor McGregor, of course. So then you could argue, well, Conor fights with his hands behind his back and all that type of stuff. But it's you can't compare, someone to Conor, for example. But no, you're right in what you say. Both, it's an interesting matchup. Ryan Spann cannot be taken lightly at all, given his record. I think that there will be a win for Johnny Walker. I think it will be. I think we're going to see some sort of crazy knockout, or I think there's going to be some. I think there will be a spectacular finish to this one. So I'm just leaning towards Walker, but it's a tough one. Have you got a prediction for that one?
I agree. I think Johnny Walker, mainly because I think there's so much on the line for him. I think he has to win this fight, and I think he's going to know that as well. He's been a little bit less erratic, I would say, in the build-up. And I know there's not been the same kind of press on him and things like that with COVID or whatever. But even in the media day and the face-offs, you're doing some mad, messing around and not taking it very seriously. It looked to me like he had his head screwed on and he knew he was here for business. But I don't think we should underestimate Ryan Spann. I think it's going to be a great fight. I agree with you that I think we'll see a spectacular knockout, because both of these have got power. Could go either way. What I would like to see, and ideally in terms of just to see what they're really made of, I'd like it to go the distance. Usually I'm the one crying out for a knockout, but I'd like to see Johnny Walker navigate his way through a fight.
Grind it out, just get a win, but also get that experience, get the time in the octagon against a really good opponent. And I think there'll be a bigger win for him doing that, and he'll answer a lot more questions than if he just goes in there and knocks a guy out, because then we still don't know what he's capable of, if you know what I mean. I'd like to see him grind through 3 rounds with a really tough opponent and come out with a win. No, I agree. And do you think, just finally on that, with Ryan Spann, like you say, not taking him lightly and learnt, do you think that was a case in the Corey Anderson match? Do you think it was a very much underwhelming, I'm the star. I'll get past this gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Is that could that be a similar thing repeating itself, or has he learned?
I'd like to think he's learned. And I mean, it's happened to him twice now where he's been caught.
Yeah.
Corey Anderson was the last one. Nobody thought Corey Anderson was going to win that fight.
No.
Nobody thought Johnny Walker would come in and knock him out. I'm pretty sure Corey Anderson thought the same thing. And his reaction after he was over the moon. It was a surprise to everyone. And I do think that, again, if you compare it to this time, Johnny Walker he's messing around. He's wearing the like daft suits, and he's taking selfies and stuff on the media day. And you must look back on that now. And it's part of his personality, and it's part of the act, and it's entertainment, all that kind of stuff. But it's great if you're winning.
Yeah.
It's not like a win streak that he's put together. Like, you have to, it's got to go hand in hand. And I'm sure he looks back at that now and he's like, oh, I don't.
Yeah.
I think he was looking past a lot of people, but that's what you need a good team around you. You need John Kavanagh, though, who's been through this rigmarole of growing a personality and growing a fighter with Conor, but with other people as well. And he's been down this road, and I'm hoping he's in his ear being like, mate, you've not done anything yet. Forget all of that rubbish. You're going in here, you've got a really tough fight ahead of you. You need to grind this one out, and then we can start to talk about having a good time and stuff.
Yeah.
So I do mainly because he's got that team around him now and he's with John Kavanagh. I think that is gonna be what gets him through this fight. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that. It'll be fireworks, whatever happens, I'm sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
Who's up next on this card?
The hype train, baby.
Yeah. So Kazmat Chimaev is fighting Gerald Merchart. I don't know if I've said that right. Sorry, Gerald. I mean, I'll ask you, I guess, to break it down. And there's obviously a bit of a backstory with this, and there's a bit of a gripe for Merchart, I guess.
Yeah.
What do you make of how it's all kind of come together?
Yeah, it's interesting. I know that we obviously went into detail about Chimaev at the start of last week's show. The UFC, obviously, Chimaev has looked, Khabib 2.0, looked an absolute beast and, the real deal. So much so the UFC has double booked him for a fight. So he's obviously fighting Gerald Merchart, but he's also got a fight scheduled against Damian Maia as well. So the UFC are obviously pretty confident that he's going to come through this one unscathed, which, yes, when you look at it, you can say that and say, yeah, no one's caused him any trouble, But I think the way this is played out, it's got the making of a true underdog story, and kind of, be careful what you wish for, or whatever one of you say, because UFC shouldn't be doing that. It's very disrespectful to Gerald Merchart to book him in another fight when, Gerald Merchart could send him to the hospital and it's surgery and you don't know, it's a fight game, So, yes, he's looked good. Should they have double booked him? No. Gerald Merchart has nothing to lose in this one. He's the underdog, nothing to lose and everything to gain, which, as a fight fan, as a betting man, as a sport fan, they're the kind of stories that we like to write. So I'll throw it back to you, Matt. Are you on board with the Chimaev hype train, or what's going to happen on this one?
No, if we're using train analogies, I'm doing that thing where I'm like hanging off the door and like the wind's blowing through my hair. I'm not on board. I am not on board. He looks incredible, and I can't take that away from him. He's, again, using a train analogy, steamrolled his last two opponents.
He's on the right track, though.
He's also on the right track, I would say. Yeah. But he hasn't fought anybody yet. He fought John Phillips. I mean, is he? I'm not sure he's in the top 15 of that division. He fought Rhys McKee, who was making his UFC debut. Again, not taking anything away from these guys, but Kazmat ran straight through them. We didn't get to see anything. He didn't hardly get hit, which is a feather in his cap. But I'm not on that train yet, and I think double booking him is asking for trouble, especially if you're putting him in there with someone like Merchart, who's very, very experienced, an incredible grappler, who won't mind being on the floor as much as his other opponents might have been. Obviously, Kazmat can do some damage down there, but again, Merchart's probably a lot tougher. He's probably taken a lot more damage. He's been in a lot more wars. If I'm if I'm Mershaw going into this fight, my main thought would be to inflict as much damage as I possibly can on Chimaev so that he can't fight on Fight Island. That would be my mentality. It's because he'll absolutely feel like he's been overlooked. And I would just want to inflict as much damage so that you're sending this dude to the hospital. And I know that sounds savage, but you're sending this dude to the hospital because you've been overlooked. And it would be an amazing underdog story. Like, I really, really don't want Kazmat to win now. I don't want Chimaev to win. I think he's getting too big for his boots already. I don't like it. I'd love to see a great fight. And you know what? It's a test, isn't it? Because we could be wrong here, and he could be the real deal. I just haven't seen enough of him yet. I just don't know whether he is or not. If he comes in and if he straight away goes for the leg of Mircea, takes him down, does the same thing, pushes him against the fence and beats him up, then we're all going to be like, right, cool, now we're on board. I'm pulling myself on that train. You're on board. Because you can't argue with that. Once you've come through someone like Mircea, you can't argue with the fact that this guy's something special, and then it'll justify the UFC. They'll be rubbing their hands being like, told you, we had it right, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah. But, do you have any idea what the betting odds are for that fight at all? Or?
I'm pretty sure. I'll double check. I was looking at putting something on before. I'm pretty sure
4-1.
Guys paying something like 4-1, which I'm definitely getting on, because if you lock two guys in a cage, nobody should be that big of an outsider. Especially when we don't know enough about Chimaev yet.
What makes me wonder with the whole double booking thing is, I wonder if it was a bit of a mistake, as in, not saying an administration error, but they've been putting fights together. They announce it and they go, Chimaev versus Maia, two people on, comfortable on the floor, and then it's come to light, and then someone's gone, hang on a minute, he's actually in a fight first, and they've kind of sold it as, he's double booked and it's such a thing. But part of me also thinks when it was first released in the early, whether it was actually a bit of a mistake, and not to say the UFC wouldn't pick up on that, but a bit of an error for this to happen. Or maybe Dana wanted this to happen.
Someone's been hauled over Dana's table.
I don't know.
I'll have one eye on this fight and one eye on Dana, sitting cage side with his head in his hands, just praying that Chimaev comes in one piece. Not even just comes through it, that he comes through it in one piece. Because I think they see him as, a potential future star and something to fight. And a lot of people, we were saying before, a lot of people have benefited out of this time, this kind of weird COVID period in the fight game. And he's going to be one of them. If he comes through this fight, he's going to skyrocket up. And it shows that Dana, at this time, is willing to reward those people that are willing to fight whenever, wherever, on short notice. We were saying before, Kevin Holland, Darren Stewart, they fought multiple times, and Dana rewards those people. And I think this is his idea of Chimaev, because he stepped up on Fight Island and fought twice at two different weight categories. This is his way of rewarding him and saying, I've got faith in you. And then he's booking him ahead of time. And I guess because it's on Fight Island and logistically it's quite difficult it's harder to do last minute fights because you're not in the country. You've got to kind of book these people ahead. And I think if you want Chimaev to fight on both, you're going to have to double book him. You just got to cross your fingers that the gamble pays off. Do you think it will? In a one-word answer, do you think he beats Mircea?
Head, yes. Heart, no.
I'm exactly the same. I also think he beats him. I hope he doesn't. That's where I'm at with that one.
Yeah. Well, next up, I want to come to you for this one, because I know, fight fans all over the world, UFC fight fans, this guy is at least in your top 5, probably in your top 3 as favourite fighters. But I want to come to you first on this one, because I know deep down that he is probably your number 1 guy in the UFC. Cowboy Cerrone is back in the octagon once again. Matt, is your boy going to do it? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Cowboy's back, and I'm stoked. You're right, he is my number 1. If there was a Cowboy train, I am driving that train.
More like a horse, really, but it's fine.
I'm looking forward to it because he seems like he's in a good place. often see the best cowboy when there's nothing riding on it. There's no pressure. There's no kind of expectation. He's not fighting for a belt, or he's not looking towards a belt right now.
Yeah.
They've just matched him up with someone who is also on a bit of a run, fighting well in Nico Price. And I think it's set up for It's perfect for Cowboy. It's perfect for the way he likes to fight. He likes to go in there, be pally with the guy beforehand. There's no animosity. There's no pressure.
Yeah.
He likes to go in because he loves to fight, and that's why we love Cowboy. He will fight anyone, any place, anytime. He's got the most fights in the UFC. His record speaks for itself. He wins some, he loses some. He's had runs of the title, got close, fallen away. Obviously, he's coming off a bad defeat to McGregor, which was an example of how the pressure can get to him and how that doesn't really perform under those lights. But then his last performance against Anthony, that was a super close fight, but that's exactly what you wanted to see from Cowboy.
Yeah.
I think he'll get the win in this fight because I think he's going to be relaxed. I think what he's got to watch out for is that he doesn't let it get into his head as the fight goes on. You usually see Cowboy build, and that's exactly what he did in the Pettis fight. He built as things were going on.
Yeah.
He definitely works on. There's definitely a psychological element to him where his confidence grows if he's doing well. He's not great at coming back from adversity within the fight. That's what I see from him anyway. And I think it's one of those ones he's got to be careful early on that he doesn't get cracked because this Nico Price is a powerful guy. If he starts to get under the cosh early on, you're going to start to see him wilt, and I don't know whether he can come back from that. But if he gets into his rhythm, if he's enjoying himself out there, I think you'll see Cowboy get a win. And I don't think it leads to anywhere for him. It just leads on to more good records, I guess, that he's got for wins, bonuses, and all this kind of stuff. But I do think it could be an absolute cracker of a fight if Cowboy can get himself into it from the start. What do you think? Am I way off, or am I?
No.
Like glasses
no,
off?
it's
like,
it's smart. Yeah, no, it's logical in what you're saying. I definitely agree. It's all about the headspace, the mindset, obviously the whole Conor hype, as you know, time and time again. Like you say, these big fights can get to him a little bit, but he's in a good headspace. As I say, what I've liked this week is he's not talking about retirement. He keeps saying, I'm ending on my terms. I don't want my promoters to give me the walking papers. He's very much, thinking about longevity. He's become a father for a second time in the past week or so as well. So I just feel as though he's relaxed and he's at peace, he's at ease, and he's just going to turn up, clock in, do his job, and hopefully, clock out and get his hand raised. So I am also leaning to Cowboy as well. As I say, we both love the guy. I know he is your man. And I think he'll do it. And one thing that I think we will do as well I know it's a particular highlight of ours, is maybe this week on the In the Red Corner YouTube channel, we may even share Donald Cerrone's cave diving video, maybe, just to tell you a little bit about him. For anyone that hasn't listened to it or seen this clip, we won't tell you anything about it, but this guy comes back from adversity. That's the big thing. He's experienced adversity. Yeah, I'm going Cowboy in the win column. Yeah,
I think to touch on the video, I think it's probably my most talked about video. If ever I'm talking to anyone and YouTube comes up, people start sharing YouTube videos, this is my go-to, and it tells you everything you need to know about the man in a 15-minute video clip. So, we'll definitely share that this week because it is it's an eye-opener, and you don't listen to it before you go to bed. Before you go swimming. Definitely don't. All right, and then it brings us to the main event. This has been, 2 years in the making? Tyron Woodley and Colby Covington. I'm really looking forward to this fight. And I guess I'll come to you and let you kind of break this down of how you think this one plays out.
I agree. There's 2 years of bad blood in this one. It's really it's built to the climax, obviously, on Sunday. And for those who are, the uninitiated, these two do not like each other one bit. Colby Covington plays the heel. Now, for those that don't know, in pro wrestling, the heel is the term of the bad guy. So the bad guy character is known as the heel. That's what he plays. He is the guy who you tune in and you want this guy to lose. Now, it's not just about that, because Colby Covington is an unbelievable fighter. And as much as he, the way he is, there's part of me that does admire him, really, because I think, and I always take it back to when Joe Rogan said he knows Colby on a personal level, and he said he's a really nice guy. He was going to get cut from the UFC and plays this character that with the MAGA hat, with the rubbish suit, just to get under your skin. But that's what you've got to do in this business, because people tune in, like I said earlier, because you want to see him lose. He's coming off his last fight against Kamaru Usman, so he was going for the belt. He does not stop one bit. Comes forward, he swings. The forward pressure is with, obviously, Colby all the time. Now, Woodley, also someone that the fans don't like, and probably for someone who talks as much, but doesn't back it up as much. Someone who, yes, has had the gold, has been there. His title reign is probably the opposite to Colby in terms of tuning in. You tune out for those fights. Woodley, for me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, but in watching Woodley in his last couple of fights, very underwhelming. And it seems as though he's holding a lot back for me. He's kind of maybe not throwing the hands as much. I don't know if I've read that wrong, but how do you see this breaking down with these two?
No, you've read it exactly right, and I'll echo your thoughts. I guess firstly, I'll touch on Woodley. He's for me the biggest disappointment. Whenever I watch him compete, because I know what he's been capable of, and I've seen his knockouts of Robbie Lawler.
Yeah,
I've seen his knockdown of Carlos Condit.
Mm-hmm.
I know what he's capable of, and the last couple of fights, Darren Till aside, who we could argue was or wasn't ready for that fight. Darren Till aside, his last couple of fights, like you say, he's just not let his hands go. He just doesn't, to me, look like he wants to be there.
Mm.
He gets put in uncomfortable positions, and he doesn't seem to have the fight or whatever, if it's the cardio or whatever it is, to get himself out of it and impose his kind of will and his pressure on the fight. Yet he talks a massive game. He's very, very confident in himself, and he manages to make you believe coming into the fight that he's going to do something, and this is what he's going to do, and this is how he's going to win, and that's just how it is. And then the bell goes, the cage closes, and none of that things that he's been saying has happened. And he said this probably the last 2 or 3 fights now, and this time he's doing it again. He's talking a very big game. We've noticed he's working with Masvidal. He is letting his hands go. He's more relaxed in there.
Yeah.
His cardio's better. He's been cycling or doing triathlon, whatever he's been doing.
Making chip rap music.
Yeah. And I'm just like, you're going to have to prove it to me. I don't believe this until you prove it. Covington, on the other hand, to be honest with you, going off the last couple of fights, the last couple of times we've seen Tyron Woodley, Covington's his worst nightmare. It's his worst nightmare. He's going to stay right in your face. He's not going to give you that time to throw these big overhand rights. He's not going to give you that time. He's going to press you up against the fence. He's going to beat you up. If you want to wrestle on the floor, he's going to compete with you. These are two very, very high wrestlers. There's no advantage there for Woodley. I'd say Woodley might have a power advantage, but I think Covington's got everything he needs to negate that power, i.e. he's going to be in your face from the word go. We know he's got an incredible gas tank. He's shown that every time he's fought. He fights 5 rounds, and he doesn't let up for a second. He definitely, even though he's fought for the title, he lost to Usman. He didn't disgrace himself in that fight.
No.
Contentious stoppage, it's another story, whether we think it was too soon or not. Colby would argue it is. I'd probably say it wasn't, but he was in that fight until the very, very end, and no one else has been able to stop Usman.
Yeah,
so,
agreed.
I can't see past Colby Covington for this fight.
No.
I think just to finish on that, I think he's just doing all the right things. I watched his press conference this morning, and like you were saying, in terms of playing that heel, playing that bad guy, nobody does it better. He is incredible. He can do it with the most deadpan face, and he says the most ridiculous things and the most controversial things. And it's funny now because I know he doesn't mean it.
Yeah.
But you believe that he does because his face is deadpan. I don't know if you saw it, but at the very end, there was a Smo asked him what he thought of Gilbert Burns. And 3 times he asked him the question, and 3 times he was like, who? And didn't break a smile, didn't look sarcastic. He is in character, and it's absolutely brilliant. And I love to hate him, and I hope he wins.
Yeah, he would have a very successful career in the WWE. When he packs in, he's got a very bright future there as well. But one thing to play, I know you said obviously in terms of the matchup, it's a nightmare for Woodley. And one thing I would argue as well is it could also be the best matchup in a sense, because if Woodley can knock out the bad guy and the guy that everybody wants to hate and tune in to lose, if the old Woodley comes back, no holds barred, and destroys Covington in devastating fashion with a knockout, that respect and that boring and that, it's Woodley and that sort of hate for him, this is the one fight that can bring all that coming back. Yeah. Just the way it is, I would say. Yep. But he's got to let them hands go, and he's got to go for it. Because if he doesn't, then just go get out the UFC if you're not even. It
would be very interesting to see. Well, I tell you what, it'll be. I wouldn't surprise me if he's fed to Chimaev in the not future. If you lose this fight, Tyron Woodley, because if you want to stay in the UFC, he's going to have to prove something. If he fights in the similar way to that he has, but yeah, he's got power in those hands, and he hates Covington enough that if you're going to get up for any fight, if you're going to find some adrenaline and find some drive and grit from somewhere, this is the one. If he doesn't do it here, it's time to pack it up and go back to his career. Yeah. And that I think wraps up the card. Like I'm absolutely, I can't wait for it. I'm absolutely stoked.
I can't.
We get it Sunday daytime here, so Sunday Arvo. Get on the couch, watch this.
Exactly. Moving swiftly on from the UFC, we'll talk about the AFL. Obviously, Matt, I want to come to you because last game of the season before finals, a huge game. You're even showing your commitment tonight because your team, it's an in the red corner first, your team are playing as we speak. Now, I don't know what's happening in the game. I've not got it on in front of me. It sounds like Gillette Soccer Saturday, but Matt, St Kilda versus GWS, what's going on?
Unreal. Well, I've got it on the corner of my eye, on the TV in the corner. Currently, there's 5 minutes left before half time. Saints are winning 35-25.
There we go.
Huge game for us this. We pretty much have to win it. Well, we do have to win this to make it into the top 8. It'd be a massive shame. We've been in the 8 all season. We haven't played finals for donkeys yet. In fact, I don't think I've seen us play finals. I've been here coming up on 6 years. 5 or 6 years. And I've not seen Saints play finals. So for us to drop out with a defeat tonight would be horrendous. I've not got the sound on, but we're winning. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Hanbury was back in the side. So I think we should have enough. Even though GWS have been pretty inconsistent this year, they've beaten some of the top sides. They've lost some of the lower sides. Saints have been fairly consistent. We were talking earlier in the week, the games against someone like GWS, if you're wanting to make finals, if you're wanting to get in that top 8, you've got to be beating these teams who are kind of teetering around that between kind of 6th and 10th position. We've got to be winning these games. So, if we don't win this, you can argue that we don't deserve to be there. So, so far, so good. I think it's interesting just looking at there was a great thing shared by the AFL this week, and I'll just bring it up on my phone now. Coming into, obviously, the last round of games tonight, there was a few kind of things that needed to happen in order for certain teams to make finals. Saints was super easy. Saints was just, we had to just beat GWS tonight. So far, so good with that one. Bulldogs can still make the final. They've got to beat Fremantle, or they've got to hope we beat GWS and the Bombers beat Melbourne. Okay. Are we holding out much hope for the Bulldogs of the Bombers beating Melbourne?
Well, I think Melbourne they've probably had the exact same season as Essendon this year. Melbourne, you get so excited one game, and then, in the recruitment world, we call it champagne and razor blades. 1 minute it's up here, Next minute, it's down there. So, and that's what it is. It's every single week. You don't know who's going to turn up. Bombers, I mean, they can't even do themselves a favour, never mind anybody else. So, yes, I think we can beat Melbourne with the players that we've got. I know we've had injuries all season, but we've put in enough good fights against top opposition and been close, in a sense, to winning games that I think we can beat Melbourne. The big thing for us is it's John Worsfold's last game. So Woosh's last game in charge of Essendon. They'll probably obviously want to send him off in a positive victory. In my opinion, don't let the door hit you on the way out going to Western Australia, mate, because, I've not been a fan from day one. And I hope you don't have to quarantine when you get there and, quarantine for another 4 seasons, maybe.
It's a savage end. It's a savage ending for poor Woosher. Is there an argument for you guys to kind of coast through this last game now? I mean, just for draft picks. I don't know how to finish that table, but.
Well, I think Worsfold talked this week about Rutten and handing over the reins, and we've got a good guy in charge, and sort of hyping him up really. So I mean, not to say Rutten will be in charge of this game, but it seems as though they'll want to send them off well. Worsfold, all the best to you wherever you go next, probably Freo or whoever. So I just think they'll want to end the season in a positive light and give Rutten the reins and just let the lads recover and maybe pick up someone good in the draft, and then it's all for next season, and it's the Rutten era will begin. Yeah,
we've said this before, haven't we? But I hope I hope he brings in a different culture to the club. I hope he takes the reins over and he puts his kind of stamp on the team.
Yeah,
time will tell, I guess. We'll probably touch on it a bit more next week once we kind of see the lay of the finals.
So just to conclude AFL, as it stands at half-time of the game, Saints, are you confident that Saints are going to the finals?
Yes, I am.
There we go.
I'm the Saints.
Fantastic.
All right, well, moving swiftly on. We will touch on the Premier League. We had the opening game of the Premier League last week. Any standouts for you?
There was a couple of standout games. I believe, Matt, there was a 7-goal thriller in Merseyside, was there?
Oh yeah, you're going to swing that back straight to me. Okay.
Straight to you?
Yeah, there was. Bloody hell. It's not like Liverpool, is it, just to make it, just nothing's plain sailing. Nothing in Liverpool is plain sailing. I watched the game on Sunday morning and your initial reaction was, oh, Christ almighty, like dodgy at the back there a little bit, leaking goals. I was a bit critical of it. On reflection throughout the week, it wasn't a terrible performance. We made some mistakes at the back, and you know what? They are a good side. I said in my predictions that I didn't think they'd do as well as we thought they might. I'm not ready to take that back yet, but you know what? They did really well against us. They caught us on the break. They knew that we were going to play a high line, which we're going to do. We're going to do all season. They've got quick players and they turned us around really well. I think they caught us a bit cold as well. Just coming this first game of the season, you don't often see mistakes from the likes of Van Dijk or the keeper. They managed to catch us out there. Didn't think Trent had his best game, but again, he's not really had a full pre-season. He's been injured. But on the upside, we did look great going forward. Like Mo Salah looked incredible. It's great to see him scoring, picking up a hat trick in the first game.
Yeah, especially in your fantasy football team as well. It's always nice.
Yeah, he was in your fantasy football team. You're welcome. Not a lot else to say for me, really. I didn't learn too much. I still think it's still early days, and this weekend's fixture, I think, for Liverpool is more important as a marker of where we are. But I mean, hats off to Leeds. We'll see now that they've got Fulham this week, and that's more of a true test again to see where they are once that kind of the first week's out of the way, and they're going to come up against a different side who might be a bit more resilient and offer more resistance than Liverpool do, because we're willing to take those risks. I think we back our defence that we can play that higher line and we won't get caught out. Every so often we are going to get caught out, and I don't think that's going to worry Klopp at all. Obviously, you don't want to concede 3. Of course we don't. But I don't think he's going to be too worried. And I think he'll take a lot from the game that was pretty good, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And well done, you got the victory, obviously, against Leeds, but also well done, because I think you won a football bet as well. at the weekend. And I believe if you tuned into last week, I in particular mentioned Newcastle being a surprise package. I said 4-1 is good away odds, and your bet came up trumps, didn't it?
I listened, yeah, I had a treble on Arsenal, Newcastle, and Liverpool, I believe it was.
Yeah.
That came in nice, but yeah, Newcastle, we were confident that they were going to do well, but it was also a bit like we'll see how these signings go. But they look great, and I think Callum Wilson, like we've said, is going to be great for those guys, for Newcastle. Who have they got this week? Remind me.
Newcastle. I'm not too sure actually.
They've got Brighton at home.
Oh yeah.
So
that's a winnable game.
Yeah, really good chance for them to kick on.
Exactly.
I'm excited to see how they go.
And from one good prediction to maybe not as good prediction, is a big key takeaway from the game is Spurs losing at home to Everton. Did you see much of that one?
Yeah, I watched the game. I watched the highlights of it. Yeah, they weren't the races, were they? You know what? I was actually very impressed with Everton. Despite Richarlison, I don't know how many chances. Christ. But I was quite impressed with them. I think if they can kind of, we knew Ancelotti was going to put a bit of discipline with these guys, and they've obviously brought in Rodriguez, going to make a difference there. I'm looking forward to seeing how they go. Yeah. But on the flip side, Spurs, and I guess we'll touch on this in a second with the transfer activity, but the pressure's on Spurs already, I think. I guess I'll switch it back to you because you had some interesting thoughts on it earlier.
Yeah.
How do I put this? Where do you think Spurs are at? What's going on? Because on one hand, we both predicted they'd do quite well, and I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's interesting. I've recently watched, obviously, the Amazon documentary, the whole Tottenham, behind the scenes, see the way Mourinho works, and you can see why he does fall out with people. He's a straight talking, no nonsense type of approach, as opposed to the Klopp arm, the Klopp and the Pep arm round you and G you up that way. It is interesting. Obviously, they brought in a couple of players. Now, the thing for me is just I worry in a sense. They've got the players. They can turn it around, no question. They've got the players. You look at that starting 11, it's no problem. But we want to get on to transfers, and we will. They've brought in potentially two, I believe, at the moment, in the last couple of days, of Reguilon and Gareth Bale returning. But before we get into Spurs and what that means, I actually want to go straight to you because it impacts you more so than Tottenham or us. So Liverpool have picked up Thiago in the last couple of days, it seems to be. Matt, talk me through that one.
Unreal. It's been a long time coming, hey? I feel like we've been talking about Thiago since May, at least. He's been on the lips of everyone. We knew about him. We knew we were interested. We knew his contract situation. And it just dragged out. And I think at first there was a concern that he wasn't moving fast, but we were forgetting that he was still in a Bayern Munich side that were in the Champions League final. And that things weren't going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think all the while, and Liverpool fans me included, we're getting a bit twitchy. We hadn't made any of these big signings. And, you start to be questioning the board, you're questioning the owners. Why are we not strengthening from a position of strength? And all the while, Liverpool got it under control. Michael Edwards, again, you take your hat off to him. I heard someone say yesterday, you wouldn't want to play poker against him. And I completely agree. That makes absolute sense because you've no idea what's going on. He kind of puts it under the table, and the next thing he just delivers on the plate. In terms of Thiago himself, I'm very excited about him. What's really great is there isn't many players that could come into this side and make an immediate difference. I think he is one of them. If you're actually asking at the end of last season what we needed, a central midfielder it's not what we need. You don't need a central midfielder. Ideally, we need a centre-back and an attacking winger probably. But I don't know who you'd bring in those positions that are going to be any better than what we've got.
Yeah.
Whereas Thiago, he is probably the first. trying to think back, he's probably the first player in, we'll say, a long time that Liverpool have brought in that you would say is world class, already world class. We're bringing in a world class player. We've got world class players now, but they've become world class players whilst at Anfield. I think we're bringing in here Thiago, who is a world class player in his prime. I think he's going to be able to play in a number of positions throughout that midfield, which will suit us in terms of, I think he can play in that number 10 role, he can play in the number 6 role, or he can play in the centre midfield and dictate play a little bit like a Xabi Alonso kind of role, but probably without the long range shooting. I can't kind of stress enough how important I think it is that we got this done. The big question now is whether we keep hold of Genie, because I think ideally we'll keep hold of Wijnaldum, and what that'll give us is the ability to rotate through and have a real strength in depth in that midfield, which is what we're going to need. The other thing I think to note about Thiago is that he's had injury problems in his career. What I don't want us to do is run him into the ground by thinking he has to play every week. The thing is, now we've got a strong midfield. You can rotate there in the centre. You've got Wijnaldum, Henderson, Keita, Fabinho, and now Thiago Alcantara. We can rotate these guys. They don't all have to play. You're probably going to play 3 at a time. So you've got a better chance that I'm not running him into the ground. I mean, one more can I say about him? I'm really looking forward to seeing what he brings. Don't know how quickly we'll get him into the side. We've got some League Cup games coming up. It'll be incredible. We got to see him there. But yeah, world-class talent. And one more thing to note is as well, it's a feather in the cap of Liverpool that this guy is coming off winning 7 back-to-back leagues, and he's just won the European Cup, and he wants to come to Liverpool. I'm made up.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And obviously, before we went to Thiago, I spoke about Spurs' ins. Now, interestingly with this, Reguilon and Bale obviously look like the signing for Spurs. Man United was also linked with Thiago, so there are 3 players you can argue Man United have missed out on in the last 2 days. Now, I feel as though we wasn't in for Thiago at all. I think that was just Man United drumming up another name so Liverpool can come to the party. I think it's not the last time. It's not the first time it's happened, and it won't be the last either. That's just the nature of it. Reguilon, I think there was interest, and again, it's more of a luxury thing where I would have prioritised the left back, but if they're not available, then you don't prioritise it. You don't just bring somebody in. Reguilon was different, Spanish La Liga Team of the Year, a young left back. So Solskjaer's looking, ticks a lot of the boxes of what he's trying to achieve. But the sticking point was it was a 30 million transfer, which was fine for this young lad. However, Real Madrid wanted a buyback clause, and I think that really upset Man United because that automatically screams as a feeder club and a lesser club. So Man United pulled out of that deal. We've been there before with Gerard Piqué, with Barcelona selling for 5 million peanuts. And you could argue, you train them, you bring them on, you're not giving game time to your academy players as well, just for them you earn a little bit of, 10 million extra, 20 million extra, and, then he becomes a great at Real Madrid. So we pulled out. Spurs said, feeder club, that'll do for us. They've said they can have a buyback clause, so he's going to Spurs. Also, now this relationship, this best buddies with Real Madrid now is Gareth Bale has come on the radar. Gareth Bale, would I took him at United? I'm not sure, because yes, it's risk-free. It's a very risk-free loan option because we all know he's injury prone. He's 29, but on his day, he's a very, very good player. The concerns I have, like watching the documentary, Spurs are a very close-knit unit. That team are very close. They've been together for quite a while now. And this, I believe, could set up the apple cart a little bit, really mess things up with the dynamic, with the culture, because he's coming in on, although there might be a 50% wage thing, he's coming in on big wages. He might be on at least 400, 500,000 a week at Real Madrid. Let's say it's half of that. It's still 250, 300,000. Yeah. You might get some pay rise left, right and centre with your Kanes, with your Allis, with those other players. there's talk about Dele Alli going the other way as well. So it's a bit of that will really upset things. But it's Real Madrid, don't forget. Spurs are doing them a favour by taking Gareth Bale off them because he obviously doesn't want to play. Zidane doesn't like him. But Real Madrid aren't doing it out of the goodness of the heart. They don't have a heart, Real Madrid. They can see the bigger picture. They're seeing that there'll be some sort of deal where either, one, it's a mandatory fee at the end of the loan, where Spurs have to buy him, or two, it's start of that perfect relationship where Harry Kane in 12 months' time probably signs for Real Madrid. And then back to Mourinho, a release clause, Gareth Bale on loan, problems of moving them on, wages, upsetting the apple cart, all that what we've just said. 2 short-term buys for a short-term manager in Mourinho. It makes sense. They're not my problem. They're Daniel Levy's problem. Am I far wrong with that?
No, you're exactly right. I thought you were saying about the short-term manager to fix it and short-term buys to fix a short-term problem. Because you look at the way they've started the season, they struggled last night away in Russia, wherever they played, against 9 men. Took a penalty and a late goal to get them through there. They struggled, and they're all of a sudden you're coming off a defeat in that first game, a struggle against a nobody side in Europe, and now you've got to go away to Southampton at the weekend. Yeah, the pressure's on. The pressure's really on, and obviously they're not going to have these signings in place in time for that game. But yeah, and it's the short termness of it. I don't understand it, especially when Spurs have recently put all that money into a stadium. They're building a brand. They've had a documentary about them. It's not the time to be short-term, is it? It's the time to make sensible long-term decisions. Gareth Bale isn't a sensible long-term decision. A buyback clause isn't a sensible long-term decision. I don't think. And like you said, there's a danger there of doing that, getting that relationship with Real Madrid, where you start to lose your big players. We've been victim of it before with Barcelona. Yeah. We've been a victim of this, where you first they're taking Suarez, the next thing Coutinho's gone, and they start to take and they can peel away the lifeblood of a club there. And like you say, with the dynamic in that Spurs dressing room, a lot of it's built around Dele Alli, Harry Kane. They're your leaders. They're the people that have been there for a long time. You start to lose people like that, the club has a completely different identity.
They sold Bale to Real Madrid in the first place. They sold Luka Modric to Real Madrid.
Yep.
So, and, with the whole apple cart and the wages, it's very similar to the Man United with Sanchez thing. As soon as Sanchez was signed, they saw the wages. Suddenly it was, new contracts, left, right and centre, pay rises. So, I hope it does bite them on the arse, to be honest. I really hope it does, but who knows? And obviously moving forward, into this week, probably the biggest game, I would say, when you look on paper, is Liverpool and Chelsea. Where do we stand with that one?
Yeah, this is huge. Actually, I think this is a really important game. It's always tough to go away to Stamford Bridge. Recently we've had a bit more luck there, but if you go back over the years and look, generally we've struggled at Stamford Bridge. It's a tough place to go, fans or no fans. We're in that position once again where we're still not quite sure what Chelsea are going to look like. Yeah. We're also still not sure what Liverpool are going to look like, really. This is a big test for us. This will tell us more about how we're going to go this season. I think we'll know by full time on Sunday. We're going to know what Liverpool are going to look like for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. I think it'll be a bit of a cagey affair. My first thoughts is he's going to go with his tried and trusted midfield. I think you'll see Wijnaldum, Henderson, Fabinho in there. They'll control the game. They'll do the running. Obviously, Salah started really well, and I think he'll be able to cause the defence some problems. Chelsea have brought in a lot of attacking talent, I do think it's probably going to take a bit of time to gel, but they look good going forward last week. But on the flip side, Brighton caused them problems as well, and if Brighton can cause them trouble, so can Salah and Mane. I think they're a bit susceptible at the back as well. Obviously, they've got a keeper there who just doesn't like saving shots.
Allergic. He's allergic to shot stopping.
Whatever it is. So they can be got at, but so can we. I think they'll think they can turn us around as well. just looking at Leeds last year. So I think our clear message, if I was Klopp going out there, it would be about stability. It'd be about, let's not make any silly mistakes. Let's control the game. Let's control the ball, and let's catch them out. Let's use our superior attacking talent there to nick the goals. Let's get the ball to Salah. Let's get the ball out wide to Mane. Yeah. But I think it'd be a cagey affair. I'm thinking something like a 2-1 to Liverpool. If you have a prediction.
Well, I'm actually very interested, and I think he's fit this week. I actually am hoping to see a Thiago Silva debut for Chelsea, because I want to see, similar to the Brighton game, does he shore that up from, obviously the keeper's still rubbish, but does he shore that back four up? Yep. But on the flip side of it, I don't want to I don't want to sort of rule him out straight away, but he's getting on, Thiago Silva. What's Mane's pace? What's Salah's pace? Can he be caught out? I don't know. That's what I want to see. I want to see what happens.
Yeah, if you're Salah in this confident mood that he's in this form, you're licking your lips if you're putting an old fella at the back there, because you're just thinking, I'll just take you on all day. Yeah. That's the mentality we'll go in. I think Salah's very dangerous when he's confident, and you can see that he looks confident, he looks strong. He's very, very dangerous. He'll be difficult to deal with. He'll be very, very difficult. I think, but I say, I don't think we're going to go gun-ho in this game. I think it's one that we know that we'll need to win to put that pressure on. And I think we'll do all the sensible things. I think, unfortunately for my fantasy team, I think he'll probably drop Keita out. I don't think he'll start. I think he's got that creative element where he uses the ball well, but I don't think that's what we're going to want. I think we're going to want to run the game, control the tempo. He'll go with that tried and tested midfield. But yeah, 2-1 Liverpool. What would be your score prediction?
2-2.
Ooh.
I'm just that defensive frailty last week. I'm a bit. I want to see how Liverpool bounce back this week to. So, and I'll say attacking talent. Does Timo Werner write the story? Who knows? His
pace could cause us problems, especially if we're at 6s and 7s at the back. So it's a fair call. It's the first time we get to see you guys. You've got Palace this weekend. Are you looking forward to seeing this first outing for United?
Yeah, no, definitely. And we've got to, we can't be doing the Spurs. We've got to hit the ground running. It's so important. We're already a game behind, so the league table always looks less favourable on us, because it looks like we're so far down the league when we're just behind in games. So we've got to start with a win. Home to Palace, on paper you go, no question. But they've caused us problems in recent years at home. I don't think there will be many goals in the game. I think it will be a 1 or 2-0 max, or it could be a 1-1. I think there's only going to be a couple of goals in the game. We've got to start well. We've got to be solid defensively, which we at times, we were fairly solid last year. But that pace with Maguire that I worry about, with Zaha, with that Eze, who they signed, Townsend. So there's a bit of pace on that Palace front line. I want to see Van der Beek get a start. I think he will get a start. I don't think we will see the Bruno, Donny and Pogba show. I think Paul Pogba may be on the bench. I know that he's recently only just come back in training because of the whole coronavirus stuff. So I've got a feeling he might go with a tried and tested Matic, Van der Beek and Bruno together, as obviously in that 3. Greenwood wide right, Rashford wide left, and Martial up front. So it's going to be the 4-3-3 like last season, and it's super important. We've got to get the win. It's going to be a tight game. Palace looked really good last week defensively. So, we've got to, transfer news aside of dragging on, we've got to hit the ground running. We cannot be messing about.
Yeah, I agree with you. You don't want to be dropping points at this even at this early stage. I just think the season's going to go off like a train. Again, I'd be interested to see City. It's obviously City's first game as well, and they've got the banana skin, if you like it, in Wolves. So that'd be interesting to see how they start, and if they can also build that, which it's going to be so important for everyone. You don't think you're going to be doing the diamond yet?
No, not the diamond. No, we'll wait for the diamond. We'll wait for the Donny diamond. But you mentioned Wolves and City. Yep. Now, I don't know whether this is going to be a regular feature on the show, but Grant's bet of the week. Grant's bet of the week this week is Wolves to beat Manchester City.
Ooh. Well, I've got to give you this one because you've made money off City losing in the past. So,
Yeah, 1 for 1.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why is Wolves looked very impressive last week. I don't know what your thoughts were.
No, I agree.
City game behind. Are they going to have a slow start? Were they at, how's their pre-season going, etc.? In the last 3 occasions, the last time these three have played head-to-head, so these two teams have played head-to-head, Wolves has won every single one. And the bookies are saying Wolves to win at home. I know there's no fans or home advantage, but Wolves at home are 6-1 to beat Manchester City.
I like them odds. It's mad, isn't it? It's mad how the odds can be that long.
I know.
Someone with that record, City's first game, I don't know what we're going to get. I hope to God you're right. That's all I'll say. I hope to God you're right.
And probably quickly, to finish on the Premier League, another fixture that catches our eye. We spoke a lot about Spurs. Southampton versus Spurs. How do you see this one?
Tight. I think it's going to be very tight. Mourinho's not going to want to slip up. I think he's going to want to try and catch him, and he'll try and get away with a 1-0 here. How do I think he'll go? I think he's got draw written all over it, unfortunately for Spurs. They're going to want to push for a win, but they're not going to want to risk it all. I think they're going to know that they've got these signings around the corner, and they're just for me, if I was Mourinho, it would be don't lose. And I think they'll come out with a draw.
And Southampton need to win as well. They need to bounce back because of Crystal Palace. I tipped them to do pretty well as well. Got a couple of players in my fantasy football team thinking Southampton would do some good returns. So it's a must-win game for both sides, which tells me it's going to be a draw. So just the way it is.
Yeah, I was. Well, if you're having bet to the weeks, I think Southampton Spurs to draw, City's to lose. Is what we're going for.
That's it.
Happy days. All right, I think we'll call it there. Second half's just about to kick off. In Kilda, so I'm going to go get on the couch and watch Saints make finals. Happy days.